Yo, and welcome to the 64th episode of Lake of Rage, a Pokemon Trading Card Game podcast. I'm your host, as always, Kevin Clementi, aka Mellow_Magikarp. I'm joined today by two very special temporary guest hosts. Joining us once again after their day twos at NAIC, we have the one, the only Sack, aka Sack17.
How's it going, Mel? Thanks for having me.
And we have, and y'all didn't believe it, y'all were sending me messages when I had him on the meta discussion saying, this guy's trash, he can't do anything. But we have the one, the only Grant, aka Boo CK.
Yo, what up? Shout out to my haters.
So, of course, because we had two members of Team Carpe Rats do so incredibly well at NAIC, you did fine. You day two'd. What more do you want? Because we had two members of the team do so well, we're going to talk to them about their experiences at NAIC. Both people played different decks and had very different tournament runs. We're going to talk about how they came to choose the decks that they chose, how their day one and day two went, and then, of course, any other thoughts on NAIC that they experienced. So I want to start with Sack. You played Palkia and Teleon, correct?
Yes.
Why would you choose to pick the deck with the biggest target on its back? How did you come to say, no, this is so good, I'm still going to play it?
I was looking at Milwaukee because I just previously went to Milwaukee, and at Milwaukee I played Mew, and Catcher Mew has a lot of coin flips. It just wasn't for me. I was like, all right, whatever I'm playing. In NAIC 1 week later, it's going to have 0 coin flips. It's going to be shady dealings. The only coin flip is going to be at the start of the game. So it's either Palkia, Inteleon, or Arceus Inteleon. And I decided on Palkia after seeing Tord do very, very well with it. And Gabriel Smart did very well with his list as well. I like the Quadarita, so I was just going to play a Quadarita deck. And then one of them had cross switchers, and I liked Tord's build with Starmie and the Luminion for both Duraludon and Blissey that did well in Milwaukee. So I kind of just put them together. I tested it Monday, Tuesday, and I tested Tord's on Monday, and then Tuesday I tested Gabriel's, and then on Wednesday I just put them together, and then that was the list that I came up with for NAIC and submitted that.
Bro, so easy. Just take two good decks, smush them together, and see what happens.
Yeah.
Grant, what about you? How did you come up with? You played Arceus B-Barrel again after doing pretty well with it in Milwaukee. So what made you run it back, and what made you say this is the play for NAIC?
Well, I played Arceus, Bibarel, Flying Pikachu, Crobat, and I knew after seeing results in Milwaukee that Palkia would be even more present, and I was right. I played 6 of them, and I wanted to have a good matchup against that, and the Crobat's still in there for Mew. Didn't play any of those, but I tightened the list up to give a better Blissey matchup, and I've been playing Arceus, Bibarel all year and felt good. So there was no reason to really change anything up and try and, come up with a new deck in 4 or 5 days or whatever we had, and did all right with it.
How far off did you end from Azul's winning list?
58. He had second research and the Phoebe, and I still had the Shauna, and I added a cape to protect my bench, or when you get in the Sharon's loop to protect the Arceus from being bossed up when you put it back down as a V.
Yo, so pretty darn close. Real player different.
Yeah.
Diff though, it happens.
Yeah. Skill diff, yeah.
Let's go and talk about your tournament runs real quick. So, Sack, can you walk us through a little bit about day one? The very first and the most important one. You're sitting down, your first IC since 2019? It's been a while, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
2019.
So
yeah, it's been a long time.
First IC in 3 years. You're playing a different deck than you played last week. How are you feeling sitting down for round one? Do you know it's going to go well? Are you nervous? Are you excited? Like, what's going through your head?
Round one was, I don't know. I'm always nervous for round one. Like, I don't know what I'm going to sit down against or across. And it's the start of the day. Like, round one really sets the tone for the rest of the day, like whether I'm going to be nervous or not. But yeah, I was feeling like pretty nervous. I was pretty confident in my deck though, so it wasn't like too bad after round one. But then like the rest of the rounds got like a little bit sketched.
How so?
Like round one, I hit a mirror match round one. I was like, all right, Palkia versus Palkia. Very cool. I have to start my day off with a matchup I'm not too familiar with because both people want to bench all their Pokemon, but like if you do, then you're just trading Okos, and if you go second, then it's not great. And I did end up going second. I think, yeah, I ended up going second. Both my rounds one and my rounds two, I went second game one and missed Palkia turn one. So I just had to attach dissolvable pass, which sucked. But then for the rest of the rounds, up until round 6, so for the first 5 rounds, all I did was hit Palkia mirrors. Just it was like a great way to start my my day at NAIC. I went 5 for 5 on Palkia mirror matches, which wasn't very good. I was like, come on, this isn't how my NAIC run is going to be, but it ended up pretty well. So it's not too bad. Too bad of a start.
Do you feel like you had the optimal list or the optimal strategy for the Palkia mirror, or did your opponents just not know what they were doing in the mirror match, or like what happened in the mirror that gave you the advantage?
Each round was a bit different for sure. So rounds 1 and 2, one of them, the second round played Ice Riders, so like I could just gust Ice Riders, get really lucky by going, taking the first KO and stuff like that, and then knocking out their attacker for every turn after that. But the first 3 rounds, it was just like variants, like different draws. But then like round 4, after lunch, I think I played like a pretty skilled match. Like I went second and didn't bench too many people and just like had to draw and play the right cards when I need to in the mirror match. But I don't know. I don't think I had the optimal list. Looking at Isaiah Bradner's list, like playing the 4 battle passes and stuff like that just seems like the good way to go. Because in the mirror match, if you go second, there's not much you can do to come back from it. Other than like you can get turn 2 Hydro Breaked by Palkia if and they go KO Palkia, or they just go boss KO Palkia with Subspace Swell. So like either way, if you don't bench anybody, there's still a good chance you get knocked out in the mirror match. So I think it was just a bit of variance for the first 5 rounds that helped me survive. But the first 3 rounds of the tournament, I borrowed my friend's sunglasses and I had them sitting around my neck, like just tucked into my shirt and sitting around my neck. So for the first 3 rounds, I'm pretty sure my opponent could see my reflection of what cards I had in my hand for the first 3 rounds. So that was kind of fun.
How did you figure out that they could see the reflection, Zach?
I went to lunch. It was lunch break after round 3. I went to lunch, and the friend that I borrowed them from, we were getting at Shake Shack. He was like, "Yo, have you been wearing that for the first 3 rounds?" I was like, "Yeah, they've just been right here." He's like, your opponent can see your hand in them, right? Like in the reflection. I was like, I had no idea, which is like pretty important in one of the matches that I ended up tying. But I don't know. The Palkia mirror is not great. It's feels like it's just up to variance and wherever gets more lucky in them.
So then you come back from lunch. You're doing okay. You got food in your stomach. What was the play for lunch?
The play for lunch was awful. Like it seemed like there was no food around. So we went to go to the cafe, and then the lines were super long at the cafe, which wasn't great. And then we would try to get on like some scooters and then go to Shake Shack, and the scooters didn't work, so we had to put the scooters back. And we went there. I just got a drink, and then I dipped because the ice cream machine was broken. Yeah, it sucked.
So how'd your tournament go after lunch?
After lunch, I hit 2 more Palkias, right, the mirror matches. And then round 6, I finally hit something different. It was Duraludon, which was kind of fun. I went first in this matchup, and I turned to Hydro Break their Arceus. They were like, "Oh, I think you're 10 short." I was turned to Hydro Break with a Choice Belt. I said, "No, I'm using Hydro Break." They're like, "Yeah, you're 10 short." And then they started counting out like my bench Pokemon. And I was like, "No, I'm using the attack Hydro Break on Palkia V." And he was like, "Wait, what?" And so I did read Palkia V. And like, I don't think a lot of people know that Hydro Break sometimes can do more damage than Subspace Swell, especially when they don't bench anybody. So I went to Hydro Break KO Arceus before he got the acceleration off. And then they promoted Duraludon with 1 and like attach pass. And then I just drew pass because I have to reset the Hydro Break, and then was like path to the peak, Hydro Break again, KO Duraludon. And then game 2, I played a Starmie in my list. So they went Trinity KO Manaphy, and I said Cross Switcher, Belts, KO Duraludon. Duraludon VMAX for 330, and then they had no cards in hand, so they went Treaty Nova, hit Starmie for 180, and they were debating for like a very long time whether they wanted to accelerate how many energies they want to accelerate to their Duraludon VMAX on the bench. And in the end, they opted to just accelerate all three, so they still had 6 energy in play. If they accelerated 2, I just KO Arceus V-Star, and then they have to top deck like a supporter or an energy to attack with Duraludon. If they accelerate all 3, they just hope that I don't have boss or cross switcher, and then I just cross switch and KO Duraludon again. So that was fun. My first non-mirror match was great, but then I rounded out with a Mew. I hit another Palkia in round 8, and then I ended the day 1 on Reggie's. My winning in was against Reggie's, which I've been saying ever since that Reggie came out and did top 8 at the Full Grip tournament, that Reggie's is not a good deck. It's an annoying deck. It's just a problem. It's not good. You should be able to beat it, and I don't expect to see it at the top tables. I've been saying that since we've heard about it. And it was just very fitting that my winning in to day 2 at Internets was against Reggie's. So I was like, come on, not like this. But I had a game plan. I stuck to it. I took game 1, and then game 2 with the time, and just won in time. So there was that. But that was how my day 1 went. It's pretty all right. I finished 6-1 at the day 2, so it's not too bad.
So perfect. You skated right in. Most importantly, the several people who were upset at the podcast where you said Reggie's isn't a problem and is easy to beat, you put your money where your mouth is, and you took something that Reggie players think is an auto win and pulled out the dub.
Yeah, it was a good matchup for sure.
So, Zach, you're 6-2-1 going into day 2. But then Grant, you had a different route. You didn't have 6 mirror matches in your day 1. So most importantly, you're sitting down at day 1 or round 1. It is your second IC of the season. You also went to EUIC. How are you feeling? Nervous, excited? You're running back the same deck that you had success with in Milwaukee. What are you thinking?
Felt pretty good. Well, EUIC was terrible. I brought Lucario, V-Star, Arceus, and ever since then I said, I'm going to play real decks and actually try, because that pissed me off to go all the way there and do so poorly. And so I have turned the season around. So, but, I'm never really nervous and felt pretty good about the deck. So my opponent flipped over Blissey, which is a great matchup. And just got him in the lock. Actually, just went first game. Just went Flying Pikachu V to start, attach, evolve, attach, and just had the lock going like that. And so he had, and I had to dig a little bit to get there. So he had less cards worth. So we're going through it, and I realized I haven't looked through my deck yet, and I realized that Shauno's prized. So I scooped immediately. He doesn't know I play Sean. I was just like, okay, he has more cards, so I'll, he'll think that I'm just going to deck out first. So then the next game, do the same thing, essentially. Actually, I had Arceus Flying Pikachu, and he hit the Arceus, so I shared that out of the way. And so then I had the no Tornadus possibilities. And then Shauna won that, and then got the lock on like almost immediately, and I showed him Shauna and Palpad, and he scooped. So didn't have to worry about time. Yeah. Then face Palkia, that was easy as well. Palkia is just pretty much a free win. There is some strategy to it, as we saw Azul on stream in the finals, like only benching Arceus, or only having an Arceus and Pikachu in there so they can't KO you. And then just kind of strategically timing it. But overall, a lot of people aren't at that level of Azul and Isaiah, so you don't really have to worry as much. But yeah, if you get 2 Pikachus down, it's pretty good.
I was co-streaming the matchup, and there was a situation where it was like, Azul should bench a second Flying Pikachu and power it up, because Isaiah can technically get the knockout. And it was like, we were kind of talking back and forth with Chad about it, and it was like, oh no, like he has to not bench it and say Isaiah doesn't have the perfect 7-card combo off the Roxanne, because otherwise it's like a 3-card combo. And yeah, it's a really fun matchup. It's actually like, it's super enjoyable as a Pika player. I don't know about Palkia.
Right. Well, yeah, it's fun watching them try when they know, like, and especially with the Starmie, if they haven't played the matchup before, they go through the two Palkias, and it's like, all right, well, now you have, my Starmie's just going to wreck you. Like if you filled your bench, they didn't KO Pikachu. They'll hit like Arceus, they'll KO something else, and then they'll think like, okay, I'll just wreck this Pikachu with Starmie, and you're like, doesn't work like that, buddy.
Yeah,
So
for those who
that
don't know,
happened.
the Starmie doesn't hit through the Pikachu.
Right.
Which happens more than you would think. That's one of those things you're like, bro, no one does that when they're not on PTCGO, but people will do that IRL too.
It happened, yeah. I think it happened twice actually. or they realized it, but it was too late. Like the one time they tried to hit into it, and the second time somebody else like realized afterwards, like, oh, I should have been setting up a Palkia, not a Starmie.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where you know what the Flying Pikachu does, right? Because you're like, oh, it just like it beats Reggie's and it beats Blissey. But when you're playing an evolution deck, you're like, oh, the Flying Pikachu has no secondary effect. You're like, oh yeah, wait, it does.
Yeah, it could be some people that just added the Starmie into the Palkia list, or just haven't played the matchup that much. Just aware of it.
Yeah, that probably won't work more going forward.
No. Yeah. It won't work at Worlds.
I hope not, at least.
Round 3 was Flying Peak Mirror. Forgot his name.
Bro, what a grief.
Austin Bentheimer. I think he was top 8 maybe, or he was had the top seed in Milwaukee day 1. But he was one of the group, I think, with Azul. So he's like, "Oh, you're playing my list." I'm like, not fully. But yeah. But he just ran his list back, and we Sharon and all that stuff ended in a tie. So 201 at lunch. And then I hit arguably my worst matchup, Arceus and Teleon. And it's not terrible if you go first. I did not go first. And so you get in the Sharon's loops, and it just kind of drags out, and either the game's quick or it's really long. And if you don't win the first one, you're really far behind. Didn't win the first one.
Yeah,
so
Arceus
201.
mirrors are. I don't know about the Palkia mirror sack, but the Arceus mirror is. You've played both actually, because you've played both at regionals. Which mirror is worse?
With the Palkia.
Wait, really?
Yeah, you can get Hydro Break turn 2. You could live in Arceus.
Okay, I've not played the Palkia mirror at all. So.
Yeah, the Palkia mirror is terrible.
The problem for me, one, is the Bibarel engine's not as good versus Inteleon. I think it's a better engine, for me at least. I'm probably wrong on that one. So leave your comments in the chat.
Oh yeah, please let us know, or tweet at Real Boo CK. You can yell at him instead of yelling at me. That'd be fine too. But I was gonna say, Finn Lynch just tweeted out about Mewtwo V-Star, and he's like, "What is the best engine for this?" And I just summed it up, and I'm like, I hate to slander Inteleon because people are gonna get mad, but B-Barrel's almost as consistent for a quarter of the dex cost. And that's just like such a big deal. The fact that I can use 4 deck slots and still get consistency versus Inteleon's 16 deck slots is. I really like B-Barrel. Like Inteleon's super fun, but B-Barrel is. It's also beats Roxanne. That's a big plus.
It's more consistent, I would say, because you have like the 4 Ultra Ball, the 4 Quick Ball. You can have like more deck spots allotted to whatever you're trying to do. But I can't do what I want to do when I want to do it if I don't draw into the cards. And is how I would rate those engines.
It also depends on what your deck's trying to do too, right? Because Palkia, A, you can attack with Aqua Bullet. B, you don't need much. It's like, Iridia is just such a strong card, right? Where you're like, oh, I can just like go grab this and I'm totally fine. Versus Arceus doesn't have. I mean, I guess you have Sharon's Care as the quote unquote Iridia, but like, yeah, I don't know. It's super cool. I guess that's a future good like debate episode or YouTube video of the engines and the differences between the two.
I mean, there's some serious stuff like Irida. If you're playing cross switchers, like Irida's good to get you, Inteleon, Evo, Incense, or Level Ball, or whatever. Like one cross switcher, something like that. But then you're not Melanie sometimes, and you need a Melanie, you need a boss. So you play cross. There's sometimes you can't get all the pieces, whereas 2 Bibarels you can draw into. You thin your deck really quick, and you can pretty much get it all. So they both have their ups and downs. But in this case, for this tournament, as we'll talk about in a little bit, Inteleon was better for the mirror match, at least against me. But round 5 was Blissey. Same thing. It's pretty easy. And then round 6, I hit the Mewtwo V Union. This is where not playing Azul's 60 cost me. I had one opportunity where if they had flipped 4 tails, I could win the game.
That feels like a bad win condition.
Right. They hit 3 tails and then a heads on the 4th one. So the flip chances then were like 16 in a row.
Yeah,
but that was a fun match. Yeah, it was a really cool deck. I scooped, and then game 2 he put down. He started with a Snorlax, and then he put down a Miltank. So I just scooped and called it.
Yeah,
there's no point in messing around.
That's one of the best pieces of advice for any regional, and I know you've both done it before, and I've never done it before because I've never hit straight auto losses. I guess no, that's not true. Yeah, I've done it before too. Like your opponent just sets up something, and you're like, I have to wait for them to misplay multiple times. I'm just going to take a break and mentally prepare for the next round. Like my opponent got out Burning Shadows Vileplume and I have no evolutions, and I'm like, I'm just going to go take an early lunch break. Like, you got it.
Yeah. I've been there before. It sucks. Especially against the Vileplume. Played like Malamar into Vileplume. Nah, it's all yours. I'll take a 2-hour lunch break.
Yeah, sometimes you got to save the mental energy and just be like, good for you, bud. I didn't tech for this.
So it's 3-2-1. And, looking doom and gloom. I probably would have dropped it. I lost or tied, but I played 3 Palkias in a row, and especially round 9, I was on the end cap, and so a bunch of people were watching, and I just absolutely destroyed him. Just super clean, like 4-turn type stuff. So that felt really good. So we're 6-2-1 going into day 2.
So you ended up 4-0 against Palkia on day 1, correct?
That's right.
Zach, how would you end up against Palkia on day 1? Was that too much thinking?
1, 2, 3, 4.
You can use your fingers to count if you need.
4, no, 3, 1, and 3, 2, and 1. 3, 2, and 1.
3, 2, and 1. Okay. So it seems like just like a big theme was you both had to go positive against Palkia in order to do so well. Yeah. Zach, you went undefeated against the other decks though. 3-2-1 against Palkia and 3-0 against other. And Grant, you went 4-0 against Palkia and 2-2-1 against the other decks.
Yeah. Well, 2-0 against Blissey and then 0-2-1 against the other decks.
Oh, the big rip. All right. So now we're heading into day 2. Both of your first day 2s at an IC. Not first day 2s. You've had both of you did Indie, right? Day 2?
Yep.
Okay.
We're big tournament players.
Oh, of course.
1,000 plus.
Yeah, 1,000 plus. We're good for day 2.
I think other than that, no, not great.
So what did you do to prepare for day 2? Like not going into day 2, but just like that night. Were you early to bed? Were you thinking about the matchups? Did you go enjoy the beautiful city of Columbus, Ohio? Zach, what'd you do?
I went to go get food. It was my first internet's day 2, my second day 2 of my playing career, and my testing partner, who like besides you guys, I've been putting hours in. Like we would show up to our local game store at 4 when they opened, and then we would stay until they kicked us out. Whether that was like 10 o'clock when they closed, or they'll let us stay till like 1 in the morning. We would just test since probably 2 or 3 weeks before Indie started up until internet's last week. We would test almost every day, Monday through Friday. So he also made day 2. So we went to go celebrate. We got burgers, which is great. It was like this. We were going to this burger place, and we're like, all right, where's the burger place? We turned down this alley, just this dark alley. And I was like, is that it over there? This little tiny door. We just walked in. It was a burger place. The food was so good. And there was a lot of it too. The burger was huge. But yeah, we just went to go get food. We came back and I kind of sat around and watched TV for like a little bit. Went to bed, probably too late, but didn't do much to prepare for day two. We were just trying to enjoy being in day two.
Let's go. That's a good way to do it for sure. Grant, what about you?
Dropped my stuff off and went to dinner with Tord, friend of the program, Goof, Ursi, Unite players, gaming gladiators, who were in town for NAIC to meet people, and Gamer, friend of the program, Carpe Diem Rats. Had dinner outside. It was nice. It wasn't super hot, so that was great. And then went to the bars for just a little bit, and which is so depressing because we got there and there were a bunch of people there and they were all having so much fun. It's like, oh, it's almost midnight. I've got to go to bed. So called it
Unfortunate
early.
part of being a good Pokemon
Yeah.
player.
Yeah, it's like, I gotta play tomorrow, which that it's exciting to play and knowing the results afterwards. I wish I'd stayed out longer.
It's like I could have done this if I didn't sleep at all.
Exactly.
Same.
All right, so now going into day two, and we'll continue with the sack leading us off. How did your day two go? How are you feeling sitting there for round number 10? How did everything else go? Did you hit 7 more Palkias?
No, not at all. I wish. Like round one of day two, I'm sitting there like, all right, I'm in day two. I'm happy to be here. Now I can just play Pokemon, so I'm having a good time. I still want to be competitive though. I sit down against my one and only Arceus Flying Pikachu. As Boo said earlier, it's not a great matchup for Palkia. They bullied me game one. They got me checkmated. So I was like, all right, let's go to game two. Game two, they start off hot as well. And there's one play I can make. It's cross switcher, KO Barrel, Roxanne, Temple them. So I KO Barrel, take away the draw support. That's my first prize of the game is KO Barrel. Not great.
That
so
doesn't sound good.
No. But it's like it's my route to come back because if they don't draw out of this, I can go KO Flying Peak, VMAX, KO Pikachu VMAX on the bench. Pikachu V on the bench, right? I have to temple them to turn off their double turbo energy, so they need an energy to attach and max balloon, and then I just go KO Palkia, and then I have to set up another Pikachu VMAX on the bench, which is fine because I can just maybe KO that before they do all that. And they have 2 cards in hand. Their 2 cards that they drew was Crobat, Air Balloon, and Stadium plays Temple to turn off the turbo energy. So they go like attach Air Balloon, they top deck Fighting Energy, attach that to Pikachu V, Crobat, find the path to the peak, bump the Temple, and it's like, come on. So that was quick 2-0 to Flying Peak. Yeah, it wasn't great. And then rounds 11, which is round 2, I did nothing against Arceus and Teleon. I was like, all right, here's a Sobble, attach pass. And they were like, Arceus thinks. And I was like, cool, keep calling, go. And they were like, Kale Sobble, feed Manaphy, feed Sobble. Into game 2, I played the game in game 2, so I won that one. And then game 3 was same thing as game 1.
Go, no.
Go. Which is like attach or draw pass. And then I hit Mew. I beat Mew. They had some abysmal draws, which wasn't great. They're like they needed 1 damage modifier, turn 1 to KO or turn 2 to KO my Palkia, and they missed it, so they went for 210. And then I just Moonlight Shuriken both Mew and Meloetta for a 4 prize turn later to clean that one up, and then I hit Mew again. I think a part of playing Mew is keeping your quick balls, your ultra balls, anything that discards cards, not using them right away to discard other discard cards. So ultra ball weight and ultra ball and quick ball is pretty bad. There was a point in the game where they had used all 3 quick balls, or they used 3 quick balls and they used 3 ultra balls, and I just taken a KO, so they went ultra ball, their last ultra ball of the game, and instead of going to grab Mew VMAX, they went to go grab Oricorio, and then they went Genesect for 5, Genesect for 4, Genesect for 3, Rose Tower for 1, and they had missed Mew VMAX.
Let's go. The punish.
yes, all they needed was a Mew VMAX, and they had used their ball surge incorrectly. So I beat that Mew, and then I hit a Palkia mirror match again. This would be round 5 now of day 2, and I did nothing again. I went second, started Sobble, bench Palkia, attach pass. They went turn 2 Hydro Break, KO Palkia. I was like, all right, cool. Here's Sobble, bench Palkia, attach pass. They're like cross switch or Hydro Break. Game 2, and then game 2, I was like Sobble, keep calling. I did find a Palkia this one in this game, so I went Palkia, a V-Star. And then they upcode it, and I was like, oh, cool. And then it was back to here's a Manaphy, here's a Sobble, here's a Sobble. So I didn't get to play that game either. And then I finished off my day 2. Was it 2-3 right now? 2-3. All I needed was top 128. There was 4 people that aren't making top 128 in day 2. I was like, I'm just going to guarantee being better than those 4 people, so I get top 128 points. All right, so I just offered the ID. My opponent spoke 0 English. When I sat down from them round 6 of day 2, I was like, would you like to ID? He was like, what? He looked at me like, no English. I was like, okay, very cool. So we just like try to communicate with somebody that doesn't speak the other language, just like a communication barrier. And he pulled out his phone. I was like, phone? And I was like, oh, I have a phone too. Maybe you can like use Google Translate or something. I have no idea what language you're speaking now. So right, we're trying to figure it out. And I was like, ID, would you like to? It wasn't working. But and then as soon as we pulled out our phones, the match slip came by, and I was like, perfect, this is it. Give me that. I was like, would you like to ID? And then I pointed to the tie, and then I was like, circle like tie. And he was like, yes, I would like to ID. And then we just ID'd round 6 to guarantee top 120 for the both of us. It was great. I'm not very good at like communication barriers, but it was a great opponent to do that with. So that was very fun. I finished 2-3-1 for day 2. It was pretty disappointing. Hit not a great matchup in Arceus Flying Pikachu, and then 2 rounds where I did nothing. I was like, this isn't a way to play Pokemon. All I did is feed you Sobbles until you take 6 prizes. So like pretty frustrating, pretty disappointing. But I finished 98th. Which is every tournament that I've been to so far this season, I finished in the top 100, which is I'm pretty proud of that. And I day 2'd Indianapolis, Indianapolis, but also NAIC now. So pretty happy with how I finished.
The other thing about the ID that's just like can't be overlooked, you earned 100 CP, or you guaranteed yourself 100 CP. That's more than I earned from a top 16 in a regional. So like that cannot be overlooked as like a top 128 at NAIC is freaking massive. Like that's such a big deal.
Yeah, I didn't realize this until I was driving home. My friends were like, oh, we're gonna leave at 7 a.m. so we can make this 10-hour trip home and get home in time for the finals, which we didn't, but we just watched the finals in the car anyways. But it was on the way home, I was doing the math in my head. I'm like, wait, how much CP do you get from top 128? And they're like 100. And I was like, that's a lot. And then I was like, wait, how much did you get from a regionalist? They were like, you get 40. And I top 128 it. Every regional that I went to this year, so there's 3 of them. That's 120 points there. I got 100 from internets. And pre-COVID, I'd finished with 260. So I would plus 260 plus 220 is 240. Sorry, I ended up with 460 HP CP at the end of the season.
Close.
So I was 40 CP away from getting my Worlds invite, and I didn't even realize it. I didn't realize how close I was. That's like another top 128 away from getting your Worlds invite, or second place at a cup, or
second at a cup.
Yeah, second at a cup. Yeah, and then I went to go look at all my like league challenges, and I have like 3 league challenge finishes and like 4 cups, and I was like, well, I could have got a Worlds invite, maybe
pretty easily. Actually, 4 cup finishes, that's 2 more top 8s, which is you just show up to a league cup and you top 8 it.
Yeah, pretty much. I was so close. I was like, well, I didn't think I was going to make the push, but I got a lot closer than I thought it did. So
next year for sure.
Yeah, next year I'm gonna make the push. It's gonna be we're gonna go to Worlds for sure.
Easy dubs. All right, Grant, your day 2. You brought Pika with a balloon, literally the BDIF.
absolutely.
I assume that you absolutely dominated day 2.
I came out hot out of the gates. Palkia right off the rip, just smoked him. I'm like, all right, here we go. 1-0. Today, something special might happen. And next round, turns over Palkia. I'm like, oh yeah, it's game time. We game 1, game 2 are kind of slow. He gets a warning for slow play. I get game 3. I'm like trying to play fast. He's trying to play fast too. He keeps like messing up. I won't say his name, but he kept messing up, and I kept correcting him because I wasn't gonna like rule shark him, right? So I'm like fixing his stuff. He's like, because he's putting Drizzle down, like taking 2 waters. Like, did you want to get the bucket first? Like, helping him out and stuff. He's just trying to play really fast, and it kept happening, and we ended up going to time, unfortunately. So tied there, still feel fine. And then I hit Arceus and Teleon, my only real loss on day 1. I'm like, okay, I still win this if I go first. Lose the coin flip. Good matches either way. Lose game 1, win game 2, lose game 3. That's how it goes.
Yeah, you go first, you win. You go second, you lose.
Right. Because it really is that way. Like, pound for pound, like if everybody draws equally, they have the advantage going first. You have the advantage going first. So
yeah. Otherwise, you're just like, I'm going to Roxanne and pray and hope you don't hit a level ball off of this.
Right. And so off the Roxanne, I have a huge advantage, right?
Mm-hmm.
With the Bibarel. So yeah, it's a weird matchup when it comes down to a coin flip. So I lose that, and then the next round I get Arceus and Teleon again. Lose the coin flip. Lose game 1, win game 2, lose game 3. Pretty chalk, so that's 3 Arceus and Tel losses total, 3 coin flip losses total. And obviously there's things I could do to probably win those games, but like it does put you at a disadvantage. But when you do pop off like turn 2 and you get the charge up another Arceus and like another Arceus on the bench, like, and you still like they boss up, or KO or like whatever, they do something. It's just so devastating. Just because they're get to really attack first. So I lose that, and then round 14, I get Arceus and Teleon again. I did not know there were this many Arceus and Teleons in the field. I thought it was going to be all Palkia. I thought it was just going to be like day 1. I'm just going to run through this, especially after the first 2 rounds of day 2. Like, this could be a great day. Lose the coin flip. So classic 0 for 4 coin flips. Same thing. It was actually another really good set. It was Cody Walensky, so a really good player. It's a fun one. And he just got the better of me. And round 15, I was down at the pretty far bottom tables, but looked at the standings and saw 6 people would not be able to get enough points if they all won to catch me if I tied. So I offered the ID. And after we'd like signed the slip, he showed me his deck. He's like, I got Rayquaza. Oh.
What?
I was like, I play 4 Path. I'd love to play that matchup.
Oh, that's an interesting one. Like 4 paths plus all the Marnies. Be like, in theory, you should win. On the other hand, Rayquaza can just go knockout, knockout, knockout.
That's true.
I assume you're favored, but
I would think so. Just Path works against Mew, so Mew's better than Rayquaza.
Debatable.
Yeah, so the Rayquaza was playing at the end of the day, and there weren't any Mews around. I didn't see any.
So there you go. Rayquaza is better than Mew.
Rayquaza is better than Mew. I mean, hands down, right?
So you both took the smart ID in round 6 to guarantee the 100 CP in the top 128.
Yeah, I didn't look at the standings hard enough to see if it would have mattered at all. But and my points didn't matter either way for Worlds. So just happy to be over with it, and it was a good experience, and did all right. Good way to end the season, I guess.
It seems pretty good to me.
Yeah.
So congratulations to both of you on your finishes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm also curious about NAIC in general. So despite the fact I've played for a couple years, I haven't actually been to an IC before. What are some differences between an IC and a regional? Whether it's like the experience, the size, the production, anything like that. What are some things for anyone else who hasn't been to an IC before that stands out to you from different than a regional?
All of the above. Everything's bigger. The production is bigger. There's 4 stages. There was 4 screens, 4 different things going on. It was Pokemon Go, VGC, TCG, and Pokken. Each had their own stage. Each had their own casting, their own stream and stuff like that. The experience, there's so many more people there. The vendors are bigger. There's more cards to look at. There's more people to see. There's more walking to do, and all of that stuff. And there's just like more players, which is a huge difference. There's for NAIC, there's 2 pods. Like each pod is like was 500 some people, 550, 560 people. So you could be in the blue pod or you could be in the yellow pod, and you don't hit people in the other pod until day 2. So I think in the yellow pod was Tord, Azul, Ian, Rob, Ross, all those people were in the yellow pod, and then in the blue pod there was
You.
Yep. Yeah, I was in the blue pod. It was great. Yeah, I got to dodge all those people. So
Yeah,
which is
Palkias. All the Palkias were in blue.
Yeah, that's I think a huge difference is the 2 different pods that you could be in going into day or trying to get into day 2. You could just not see all the other people until day 2.
Yeah, I think I said it on the pod after EUIC. It was just a totally different experience from like Salt Lake City. I think was the only one before that. Especially being a foreigner, foreign soil, and it was just it was weird. It was cool. This one felt a lot more like open and happy, and everyone was so happy to be there. And maybe because they all spoke English, and it was I could hear what everyone was saying and understand and talk to everybody. But yeah, it was twice the size, so that's another thing. Yeah, it felt a lot more like indie than anything else, except for the production, like Zach said. And the pods, you don't really think about it too much. You just, who am I playing? Let's go. And at that point, end of the season, I was feeling really comfortable with the deck. So like there were no nerves for the size of it or anything, but I'm sure a lot of people were feeling it there. A lot of new people at this one. I think my first 2 rounds, they said they weren't new necessarily, but there was like maybe the first time they'd played, and at least since COVID or maybe before that. So, yeah, it was a really happy atmosphere. The Poke Center was up. The city, it was so crowded. That it was in a very popular area of town versus a lot of the other ones where it's like, walking to the centers, you don't really see anybody. And then this one's like everybody's out on the streets. There's restaurants all have outdoor dining right there. But it was a really good experience. I feel bad for the people that didn't get to go. Happy Azul won, Flying Peak. So yeah.
And so, Grant, I know you've got a flight to catch, but are there any other thoughts from either of you on your NAIC experiences that you'd like to share?
The thing I think Zach and I both talked about, because this is the second time it's happened now, making day 2 feel so great, and then not doing well feels so bad. And it's like, what was this even worth? Like if we were going for points, if Zach knew he was going for Worlds, if we were competing, I think we would be, a little more try-hardy, possibly. I don't know. But I'm not going to speak for Zach, but I know next season's going to be for sure a grind. I'm going to go out there and really compete from the start, which will be exciting to play my first full season.
Yeah, I will say testing in Discord, I would show up after dinner, we'd play a couple games, and then we'd switch to Unite immediately. And I think when I'm not also being a bad influence and need my Worlds invite, probably not going to encourage that.
Right.
Zach, what about you?
Just like after all the testing, like this season, I took the season like pretty seriously, and like the end of NAIC was kind of like a accumulation of all of it. There was like so much testing, and like it was kind of rewarding to see like make day 2 and have like look back on the season and go like, well, it was worth it. We did it. We got there. And so I'm not going to Worlds. I wasn't going to Worlds even if I did get my invite, but we have 2 months and then Worlds is going to happen, I think. And then the next season starts. So I'm just like looking forward to that. And like, well, in 2.5 months, 3 months, we'll get to do it all over again. Cups and challenges will be back. Hopefully, I heard there was a league challenge scheduled already in New Jersey.
Oh, they just named it the wrong thing.
Yeah.
His name
Just called
yeah.
league challenge. All right. Well,
But they should
every-
be back. They should be back either way. There's no way they can't. I think as far as like testing goes, league challenges and stuff and league in general will be more popular, and so we'll all be playing more nights of the week than we have been.
For anyone who's never played in a full season or anything like that, the end of the year always starts to taper off because people are like, I'm not going to go to Worlds, you know, that dream is dead or whatever. But then after Worlds, the hype is real. Like our league cups are hitting 80, 90 people post Worlds. And then Q4, their 30 is a pretty big one. And so it's, if anyone's wondering like, oh, you know, my local league reopened and there's only a few people here, like the post Worlds hype is really real. And they're going to capitalize on that. I don't know anything. And that's how I can say this with full confidence. I feel like post Worlds, they're going to bring back locals for sure.
I mean, they have to.
There's so much that goes into it. Like it's summertime, people want to go out to the beach. They want to be outside. They don't want to be inside playing card games. People realize that they're not going to get the Worlds invite. So there's like no point in continuing to chase or play locals. And then like on top of that, there's no like actual tournaments between now and Worlds. Like NAIC happened, and then Worlds will happen in a month and a half or so.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing's going to be in between, so there's nothing to play, nothing to catch up on, no reason to compete. Because usually when Worlds happens, there's a rotation, and it's going to be a different format, and then so people just don't want to play. But yeah, usually all my locals were like, I'm going to grind next year. I'm going to test next year. I'm going to try hard next year for sure. We all get that same feeling at the end of NAIC. So I'm looking forward to being able to do that next year when the season starts again.
Yeah, I wish it was coming sooner because I want to keep the streak going, you know, like, well, I'm playing well and not take a break. But now it's like kind of a forced hiatus. And so, and then going right back to like, all right, now I'm playing limitless tournaments at 2:00 in the afternoon. Like that just doesn't do it.
Feels bad.
No, PTCGO for me has always been a bit of a struggle.
Yeah. Ever since like regionals came back, I just forgot about limitless tournaments.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I forget there's like 5 of them going on every day. And it's like, well, it's not a regional. I'm not going to test for it. I'm not going to try for it.
I haven't played in one.
Yeah.
I don't think since regional started.
Yeah, since it started, I haven't really tried too much of those, but I guess I can turn my attention to that for competitive.
Yes.
And for anyone listening, as a real quick plug for our sponsor, Tabletop Village, that I never mentioned, or my sponsor, Tabletop Village, anyone in the Seattle area, feel free to come out to Tabletop Village, located in the U District, right off the light rail station, every Friday night at 6 p.m. for a IRL fairly competitive tournament. There's 4 of us with Worlds invites in that tournament every single week, and several people who are going to qualify next year now that they figured out the trading card game exists. So anyone in the Seattle area, be sure to check those out. But one more housekeeping thing. Anyone listening to this before we do shout outs? If you're listening to this on the day it drops, Wednesday or Thursday, feel free to leave a YouTube comment below or at me on Twitter. We're going to be interviewing a couple people who day 2'd with Palkia, including one who top 8'd with the interesting Palkia list with the capture energies and such. So if you have any questions on Palkia, feel free to drop those in the comment section below on the YouTube so I can ask those to our future guests. And then, of course, I'll be in Worlds, so we're going to have plenty of Worlds hype heading into the next few weeks as well. So, Zach, if the people want to find more of you, where can they find you at?
Before I quick do that, shout out to everyone that I got to meet at NAIC. I forgot, like, going and play Pokemon is like cool to compete, but meeting everyone there and anyone that came up to me, thank you for saying hello. I had so much fun. It was a blast. And for anyone that didn't get to say hi to, catch you at the next tournament, because there were some people that wanted to say hi that I didn't get to see. But yeah, thank you to all of those guys and everyone that I got to talk to. So, but after that, you can catch me on Twitter at saxsax17 and or Twitch if you want to come see my live streams. So if you miss me there, you can definitely catch me online too.
And I can confirm, Zach streamed a lot of Palkia before NAIC and is very open with the fact that he wanted to play Palkia. So if you're looking for a competitive streamer who you don't have to worry about, oh, is this a good player meta manipulating me? Zach won't manipulate anything. He's very open. And so highly recommend his streams if you are, if he streams when you're available. He streams when I'm at work, unfortunately.
The Palkia list that I played on Wednesday after I put Torge and Gabriel Smarts together is when I ended stream, that's the exact 60 that I submitted Thursday night. So there was no change. I didn't change any cards. I didn't switch decks. What I played on stream was what I played in NAIC. And I openly answered every question about it. So catch me on Twitch.
Grant, where can the people find you?
Twitter at RealBooCK, one word.
Remember, if you have any hate for him, and I know you do, at him
Please.
on Twitter. Don't slide in my DMs. Myself, if you do need to slide in my DMs for any questions, any competitive content, or suggestions for the podcast, because we're going to have a couple kind of dead weeks. So if you have any ideas for other stuff that you would like to hear from us, please let me know. I can make almost anything happen. And by me, I mean I can make Nikhil, the Gyroscope Eevee, make it happen for me. Feel free to suggest it. You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube at mellow_Magikarp. This has been another episode of the Lake of Rage podcast. We'll catch you all next week.